Hello, we are live. Let me see if anyone is hopping in here. Okay, well, hello everyone, and welcome to this live. This is the countdown to my workshop tomorrow. And I wanted to come on here to talk about something about perfectionism because there's this idea that perfectionism is a good thing, and I see so many women going around wearing it as a badge of honor. I remember it was something they told you to say when you go to an interview and they asked about your weakness, because perfectionism is a weakness, but it can also be a strength. But really, the truth is that perfectionism isn't an obsession with excellence. That's the PR. It's an obsession with safety, and that's really different. We've been told perfectionism is kind of a superpower because you're always trying to make it perfect. But when it's driving us, just another visibility freeze that's operating from a place of shame that says you're not good enough. You can't show yourself as you are. You have to be perfect in order to be enough. You have to be something that you're. It's the Perfectionism is really the attempt to polish the self so completely that you become unassailable. Nothing can touch you, and you become impossible to judge because you're above perfection. But the reality is that state doesn't exist. It's just an illusion. Well, like low functioning, when we're talking about, I said that this is called high functioning freeze. But low functioning freeze, hey Millie, welcome to the live. If you have a question or something that you want to add, drop it in the chat. Would love to answer your questions. But I'm talking about how perfectionism is not really the badge of approval. It's not like I'm so great, I'm so powerful. It's actually coming from a place of deep insecurity that says you're not enough. So you have to make yourself perfect, get rid of any flaws whatsoever so that you become invisible to judgment. Nobody can judge you. And that, my friends, is not possible. So I talked about it being a form of high functioning freeze. And what's the difference? Like there's low functioning freeze where you can't get it out of bed. And then high functioning freeze, it's like this frantic overactivity. I don't know if does that. Anyone ever had that? Let me know in the chat, or Millie, if you can relate to this. But high functioning freeze, it's like this frantic, it's this pushing, it's this trying to make things happen, and it can be really active, but it's coming from a place of almost desperation that you can't get it right. It's coming from a place of deep insecurity. And we also, other ways that it can show up is that you buffer yourself, you over prepare, you edit yourself, you ruminate, you create a buffer. And that's what perfectionism is. It's a buffer between your true self and the world. So it's like you're hiding, and that's why it's shame, because shame says you're not enough as you are. So you've got to be perfect in order to be acceptable. And when we're operating out of perfectionism, which is just a fancy word for shame, we we aren't really moving forward. We're running on a treadmill of compliance. We're not actually free. We're not actually being who we're here to be. We're trying to comply with some perform excellency to avoid the lash of some critic. We're terrified of someone will criticize me, someone will shame me. So we avoid it at all costs. And perfectionism, it runs on shame logic. I'm not enough as I am, so I have to pay this pain tax of perfection in order to get a right to exist. Obviously, that's total BS, but this is what perfectionism is when you boil it down. It's not that fancy front. Look underneath it, and it's just deep insecurity, like so many other things. But the paradox is that we can't really expand when we're coming from this place of contraction. So perfectionism is like, I have to make it right, I have to make it perfect. But we're contracted. We're shrinking your true messy self to fit into some flawless box. And there's this lie that I was thinking about today, that the whole idea that you need an inner critic to keep you in line, to make sure that you're a good person. That even that idea itself, that you need an inner critic to keep you in line, is shame logic. It's It's the shame logic. It says you have to shrink yourself in order to be enough. So, and this is what I realized. We don't need criticism in order to get better. We need feedback. We don't need criticism. We don't need someone to tell us, to put us down and say you're stupid, you're ugly, you did it wrong. We need to know, well, that could have been better. You could have done it this way instead of that way. You don't need shame, in other words. And the whole logic, the whole fabric of our society, it's running on this shame logic that you need to contract and contort yourself and make yourself smaller in order to be a good boy and a good girl. But and we're so afraid of being shamed that we will do anything to avoid that feeling. Because historically, if you go back thousands of years, if you were shamed or if you did something bad and were shamed by the group, you were exiled, you were cast out, and that meant a very slow, painful death all on your own. But here, I have a secret for you guys. Here in 2026, that doesn't mean anything. You will not die. People won't like you. People may criticize you. People might say that you're wrong or whatever. But when you're coming from that place, you're not operating out of shame logic yourself. You do not take that in. And you can see that that's their own insecurity that they're trying to project on you. We do not need criticism to grow. We don't need criticism to stay sharp. We just need a map, not a whip. We need a map. We need to know where we're going. We need to have an alternative. And there hasn't really been an alternative for so long. And I'm just gonna, so hey guys, if anyone has any questions or comments, and this is the last, I'm doing a live here today, and tomorrow I have my workshop. My workshop, it's a 2-hour intensive where I'm going to be helping you install the break framework, which is the framework that I came up with and that other people have used effectively. People, if you look at things that I've been posting today, people send me emails and messages regularly saying that, just looking at my content and taking it in and reframing, seeing shame for what it is, has really opened things up for people. I had one lady who practiced the break. She saw me on a podcast. She practiced the break system. She said that it changed her life, because until that time, she had been entirely operating and all the conventional wisdom pretty much, that it's trying to keep you in order, that it's a good thing, that it's a wounded thing. I say absolutely no to that the inner critic is not your friend. It's not trying to keep you safe even. It is trying to keep itself safe. And that's a very different thing, because your inner critic is not you. And the fact that the idea that you even need a critic in your head all the time in your body, that is shame logic. Shame logic says you need a critic in order to be enough. That's only true if we stay in the shame world. If we keep utilizing this shame logic that says I'm better than that person because I'm this color and I'm that religion, it's all an illusion. It's all made up, and it's all based on shame logic. So we want to move from the moral trial, which is shame logic and perfectionism, to the mechanical adjustment where you're just like, ooh, I should have maybe taken a step left instead of a step right there. You don't need to criticize yourself in order to get better. But our whole society, particularly in the West, it's built on this idea, no pain, no gain. But the break protocol that I developed for myself initially over a year ago, it is about interrupting the shame loop, so the perfectionist loop when it comes up. And when you train yourself, you start to see it, and you can break the pattern. You can stop obeying and performing for it. So this is really cool. Shame is not permanent. I don't believe that it's a character, something that we need. It's something that we've been told that we need, but really we don't. We don't need shame in order to grow. We stop trying to fix ourselves and just release that shame, that critical voice, and lean into your power, because that inner critic is really the only thing that's keeping you away from the life that you want. That shame, that identity level thoughts and feelings that you're not enough, that you'll never be, whatever the voice says to you, That is really the thing that's anchoring you to the reality that you have now, rather than the reality of what you would like to have in your life. And also, I have one more thing to say about this. When you're operating out of shame, as so many of us are or have been, you you're not really being yourself by definition. By definition, if you're operating out of shame, that's you're not being authentic. That's why I say shame is the opposite of authenticity. We can't be authentic if you're carrying a ton of shame that says you've got to hide who you are and that you're not enough. What really will help us to grow and get better is not this criticism. We don't need criticism. We need feedback. We need cheerleading. We need safety so that we can lean into mastery rather than pressure and forcing and criticism. So we need to stop trying to be perfect and start being effective instead. You do not need to shrink yourself to grow. You don't need to suffer to expand, and you are allowed to be powerful, visible, and unpolished all at the same time. It's perfectly fine. Perfectionism is just another version of shame wearing like a tuxedo, you know. It's perfection. It's shame with good PR, because very good PR, you know, a whole PR machine behind it that says it's something good for you and that'll make you better. It absolutely does not. So if you've been watching this and you're thinking, I want to learn more, I have a workshop that's on tomorrow. It's the second one that I've done. Did a series 2 weeks ago. I did one on you're being manipulated by shame. And I started talking about how other people, very common that people manipulate through shame. And we have participated in, other people use it. I talked about, something that had happened to me before the workshop. Somebody tried to move the goalposts and just stipulate new terms, as if they had been agreed when really they hadn't. And that's classic because it shames you and you're like, oh, I should be nice. I should say yes. I don't want to be awkward. So we end up going against ourselves and betraying ourselves, which really is what shame is, because shame is all about making yourself, contorting yourself so that someone else can feel more comfortable. And we do not need shame. So if you're inspired by this talk, come to the workshop tomorrow. It is a deep dive into this break system that I created, BREAK. It's all about breaking the trance of shame when it comes on, because secret, you do not need to listen to the voice. You do not need to obey it. You don't need to follow it. You don't need that thing. You don't need the critic. So I'm going to drop the link in here if you're interested. It's going to be an amazing workshop. It's 2 hours and then there's a Q&A after that. And I'm also going to be doing a live, I'm going to be working with someone. So to help release some of the triggers, because so many people really struggle with triggers for years and years or decades, or they die with their triggers still active in them. And I have a system, I have a way of working with people in minutes to release these triggers. I have a video here on Substack as well, and also over on YouTube, where you can see in 20 minutes where as somebody moves that I'm working with, she has her camera off, but she goes from being super triggered about being gaslit to not being able to find the trigger anymore in the space of less than 20 minutes. So the link to join, it is tinyurl.com/interrupt the loop. That is the link. And I got for the last workshop, I got amazing reviews. People, I've put some of them up on the previous link on Substack, but people seem to be really getting permission for my content to stop listening to the voice that's been destroying their life, basically. And I know what that feels like, and I can tell you that there is a way outside the cage, but some people aren't ready. Some people, they're comfortable with their shame voice. They're comfortable with their shame. Their whole identity is built around this shame, and they don't know who they are without it. But I'm going to tell you guys that you are better without shame. Everyone is. When we operate from shame, this is when the most cruel, the most vindictive, the most hurtful version of us comes out. And in one of my essays a while ago, I wrote about, telling someone to go and F themselves. And that was because I was extremely triggered by shame in the moment. I'm usually quite polite generally. So we do not, shame doesn't make you better. Shame makes us more volatile, worse. And it means when we're operating from shame, we're participating in this, we're perpetuating it. And I don't say that to shame anyone because I've been there too. But when you shame yourself or when you shame someone else, consciously or unconsciously, or you manipulate them consciously or unconsciously, it doesn't matter, you are participating and perpetuating that shame system that is, I believe that it's a substrate of a lot of human dysfunction, both on the personal and the collective level. So the biggest act of rebellion that you can do is break up with your shame and really find out who you are without shame and start living that life, living that version of you that's shameless. And that's why I have a group program that I'm launching. It's called Reclaim Your Shameless. And it's all about reclaiming shamelessness as being a positive thing. Look at Sinead O'Connor. She did not let shame control her. And people who live without shame are the ones that take the risk, they're the ones that change the world, actually. The people who are following the shame script, the same old shame scripts, they're the ones who keep the cycle going. And when we step out of the shame cage, we can start to see what's really possible. When we lean into our full power and who we really are. So that's what I wanted to say here. Wow, this has been 17 minutes. So I just wanted to drop in and say that, and also to say, come to my workshop. Come tomorrow. It's $97, but it's going to be $97 that is so well spent, because I honestly don't think anyone else is talking about shame like me. And for me, it's really changed my life, because I used to have a very, very strong critical voice. And, a lot of times I had the voice that said, I even had suicidal ideation driven by this shame voice. And I had the constant critical voice saying, you're stupid, you'll never succeed, you'll never do that. Guess what? I don't have any voice anymore in my ear telling me, putting me down. It doesn't happen anymore. It's sometimes I'm becoming more visible in things. It's more an energy thing, but the voice, that's gone. And I'm expanding into my true shameless version and breaking out of my family system and the whole human system, which is built on this shame logic idea that we really suppresses who we are as individuals and also keeps us down as a collective. Because when us humans are operating out of shame, this is where we create and recreate all these old toxic patterns. Think of it, revenge, that's shame logic. You've got to hurt that person because they hurt you, that's shame logic. Jealousy, that's also shame logic. Shame logic is driving so much toxicity and so much so-called evil. It's really shame logic when you look under the hood and see what's really running it. It's that gasoline that keeps it going. And also the traumas that we have, because I've seen a lot of people who have processed a lot of their trauma, and if they don't deal with the shame layer, what I noticed in myself is that I might experience some feeling of relief, and then a few days or weeks or months later, I'd be back to my baseline because the shame layer hadn't really been dealt with. And if you find another reason to prove why I'm not enough or why I'm a failure, we find further evidence of it. That's maybe we release that one memory and we find another reason why we're unworthy of love or whatever it is. Because the shame layer, that identity level that says you're not good enough, that is really the damaging thing. That's really the thing that causes damage. This is why some people, they go through very traumatic situations, And there might be two sisters or two brothers, and one of them ends up, a drug addict or, really traumatized, and one of them is very functional. The difference is shame. One of them internalized shame. They went through the same traumas, baby. And one person took that in and made it to mean this happened to me because I'm bad. My needs aren't met because something is wrong with me. And the other person may not have done that. So shame is a huge part of what makes this trauma sticky and also stick from generation to the next. So breaking free of this shame, opening up the shame cage and stepping outside is kind of a revolutionary act in itself. So click on the link, join me tomorrow. You will not regret it. And if you join, you could also get you also get the first workshop. So you'll get to look at the first workshop about how you're manipulated by shame, how to stop it, basically how to spot it and stop complying to them. So this break system that I created, you could use it for manipulation from the outside and also manipulation from the voice inside your head that's tried to make you shrink and contract and not be the person that you're here to be. So, with that being said, if Millie, thank you so much. If you're still here, let me see. Can I see who's still here? Ah, Millie, you're still here. If you have a question or something that you want to say in the chat, this is your chance. Otherwise, I'm going to end the live here. But come to the workshop, get involved with this work because I keep getting, for people, particularly people who have had that heavy, malignant inner critic voice, stepping away from it and stopping obeying it and stop performing for it is a power move. This is the really deep way that you can take back your power. So I totally encourage you to do that. And maybe I will see you tomorrow in the workshop. It's at 9 a.m. It's at 9 a.m. Pacific time. That's 12 Eastern time. And even if you can't attend it live tomorrow, there will be a 72-hour replay, so it gives you plenty of time. And you'll also, like I said, if you didn't attend the first workshop, also give you access to that so that you can catch up. But we're going to be covering everything and going into much more depth this time. So with that being said, I'm going to love you and leave you, and I will see you tomorrow. If those of you that come to the workshop to learn how to break the shame loop once and for all. And I can tell you it feels so good. So have an amazing rest of your day. Now I need to end the live. Let me see how to do this. I think I cannot see the button. Whoa, it's zooming in, zooming out. Okay. Okay, so have an amazing rest of your day, and I'll see you guys tomorrow in the workshop. Bye, Millie. Bye, everyone.